Good evening everyone, Solidari-Tea. This is the Brews at 10 on my left eye. Thanks for joining me tonight, and also thanks to the Agitator for that little skit at the beginning before the intro music with the sausages. That's Agitate for Change if you want to give him a follow on Twitter. That's the number 4 or 4. Great stuff. Thanks for being here with me tonight on the Brews at 10. One order of Starmer burst coming up for Chris in the chat. Thanks for joining me this evening. Hope you're very well. Good to see you in the chat as always. If you're listening and you're not subscribed, do hit the button. There'll be talk of sausages and other things to come as I digest Starmer's speech at conference today. That's going to be the main focus this evening. Might be a bit of a short one. I was on for an hour and a half last night. Might be a little shorter than that this evening. I'll just be going through some of the so-called highlights of the conference speech. Not the full lot, which was just shy of an hour, I believe. Because the amount of times I'd probably have to interrupt that would be here till 3 in the morning. Yeah, and also please do hit the thumbs up button and share across your social media to help tonight's stream reach more people. That's a great way to celebrate as we go through the week, the channel reaching its first birthday. So we're going to be celebrating throughout the week. That's a great way of showing solidarity. There's other ways that you can support the channel as well. You can become a member for just 99p. Great value. Check out the perks. And speaking of which, customary shout out to all of the members on the channel. So you can join this list of incredible folk for just 99 pence. Shout out as always those of you who've gifted memberships to others recently. There's also a Buy Me a Coffee page if you want to make a contribution there. Check out links in the description. If you're watching back on Super Thanks, watching back on replay, please do add a Super Thanks. Awesome people. Good to see the community growing as we celebrate 1 year on YouTube. Just under 3,000 members at the moment. 3,000 subscribers, I should say. Really proud to have achieved that as well. And when I do get to 3k, there's going to be a 3k special live stream as well. Something to look out for. Nearly there. So yeah, please do share far and wide. Sorry if there's been any disruption on the stream. It looks like it's running smoothly now. Cracking with a comedy clip very shortly, and then we'll get into Starmer's speech and whatnot. Also a bit of an update on what's been taking place in the Middle East as well. I'll also be looking at a couple of protests that took place at the Labour conference as well today. One was another heckler who was just a delegate member, wasn't part of any organisation, and there was also a protest outside by Youth Demand, which I'll be keeping my left eye on. And well, again, same as yesterday. The opening comedy clip is going to come from Noreen Skinner. And you might not have seen, with all the talk about the conference, there was an announcement by Keith outside number 10. She's going to be doing some exclusive footage of that. Do check out Noreen Skinner. I think her website's called NoreenSkinnerComedy.com, but she's also on YouTube and Twitter and whatnot. Give her a follow. Alright, let's dive in with that.
Hello, it's me, Keith Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, with an address to the nation in a state of undress. Look at me. I am a mess. Okay, I'm not allowed to take any more donations from wealthy donors for clothes. I've had to give away my jacket, and I've had to find the shit shirt, and I'm wearing a Santa tie. I mean, this is not Prime Minister material. I cannot go into the football box wearing this. I'll be laughed out. And then I can't even wear my wife's clothes. She won't let me. I don't know what to do. So now I am turning to taking the money. I'm looking for charity from the working class. I can't take it from the wealthy, so I'll take it from the working class. That's why we are cutting the winter fuel allowance this year, so I can fund my clothing. I don't make enough money to do it myself. I mean, even my chief of staff, Sue Gray, makes more money than me. All right, so I'm asking, I don't know if you know, but I am a working class background. My father, you probably don't know this, was a toolmaker, and my mother was a nurse. Okay, so I'm desperately in need. So what I'm asking, any hand-me-downs, anything at all, pop it into the post at my address. I can't say that word. Address gives me PTSD. Pop it into my address. It's at 10 Downing Street for now. And what I need you to do, anything you've got, anything at all, pop it in there. Anyway, for the meantime, I've got to go down to the charity shop. I'm going to go look for the charity bins, have a good rummage. And remember, I'm all about transparency. All right? And as Angela says, we are working class. Goodbye. Victoria, don't forget the sausages.
Wonderful. I like the bit about mail it to number 10 because that's my address for now. Whether Starmer's still going to be there by the time the next election remains to be seen. And given his woeful effort on stage today, we'll be diving into, it's not difficult to see why. Music. Return the sausages. Well, I guess I should explain anyone who what happened at the conference. Starmer was talking about the situation in Gaza, and instead of saying hostages, he said sausages. He said return the sausages, just blindly reading the auto cue. But not very well. And there's been some light made of that, and I don't think it, would be too bad a thing to join in with that a bit. Why not? It's also pretty demonstrative of the lack of emotion, I think, just blindly reading the auto cue, trying to make at least some sort of impersonation of being a human being. So the way I'm going to do this, I want to have a quick look at the protester from inside the conference first, and then take a look at some of the clips from the conference speech itself, and then I'll go on to the other protest outside. Just a reminder first, this was a delegate member, like I said, not part of any organisation, protest, movement or whatever. So we're going to see not just the heckle itself, but Keith's response to this. After yesterday, he probably had some idiot drum up some sort of one-liner that he could throw out on stage if he was heckled to prepare for. I don't think that was an ad-lib comment. But I won't spoil it if you've not seen it. It's awful though. It really is awful. It just makes you sick to think what the Labour Party's come to. So let's see the heckler first.
My sister was I think this guy's obviously got a pass from the 2019 conference. We changed the party.
Oh, it's awful, awful. Where to begin? Where to begin? Well, it appears, well, I've only seen a few excerpts from the speech, I should point out. I've not seen the thing in full or the clips reel that I'm about to go through either yet. I'll try and give as genuine a first-time reaction as I can with things like this. So it looks like he was interrupted in the middle of his dad was a toolmaker, mum was a nurse thing. And then just as he was about to tell us what his sister did, this young man interrupts. And the thing about having a pass for the 2019 conference, where do I start? Was that the same conference where you deliberately undermined the former leader of the party by making a decision that you knew would be wholly unpopular with a large majority of Labour voters? That is, the people's vote on the membership of the EU. And yes, you've changed the party, Keith. You've turned it back into Blairite dross, which people were sick of. And it was Corbyn who revived the party. Even though he's won the election, it's still not garnered the numbers of votes or vote share that Corbyn achieved. And now he's stood there grinning like a Cheshire cat, essentially taking the piss on stage out of a heckler, out of a protester. And it just shows you how far the apple's fallen from the tree. Like I said yesterday, if Keir Hardie, his namesake, was there, he'd probably get thrown out himself, because he would absolutely detest and abhor what this neoliberal sheriff turned the party into. And they're all at it like circus seals, clapping away. Not an ounce of support, and we'll talk a little bit about the issues that the heckler was raising as well, but they're all just careerists. They're all neoliberal Tories in red rosettes. I think it's an absolute shame. It's an absolute shame to see what this party's become now. Under this man. Postman twat. What's he going to deliver next? Speaking of which, I'll throw it open to the chat, I guess. The clip reel that I've got from the so-called highlights of his speech is about 8-9 minutes long. I'll interject now and then, of course. But I was considering putting up the postman twat counter just to see how many times he says deliver, even in the highlights. Because I'm sure that's a word that's been bouncing around the conference a lot today as well. And what's he thinking there? What's he thinking in that moment that I've just paused it at in that freeze frame? Is he hoping that people don't dig up clips of him saying that he's a friend and an ally of Jeremy Corbyn? Perhaps. But there was an interview outside with the heckler. I'm going to play that now.
What did you want to say to the Prime Minister?
Nothing. It's just when I heard him speak about how he wanted a ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon, just the hypocrisy on how every day we're still sending British bombs and British bullets that are being used in Lebanon and in Gaza right now. And the Prime Minister, he could stop that. He could stop that right now, but he doesn't. And he says that he wants things to stop, but he won't lift a finger to actually stop them. So
this was a heckle, a protest, if you like, surrounding Gaza. And I should say this clip comes from Genevieve Hall-Allen, so credit to Genevieve there for showing this clip. Again, as with yesterday, a perfectly legitimate point to raise and to speak up about, and the level of ignorance that he got in response was proportionate to that Reeves dished out yesterday. They will ignore that issue in its entirety, unless it is, of course, to toe the Israeli lobbyist line.
So you weren't planning on saying anything, you were just moved to say while you were speaking?
No, I was a delegate, I'm a Labour Party member. I hoped I'd be one for life, but I suspect not now. But just what's happened and just the complete failure of the Labour Party and Keir Starmer to address it, it's just completely sickening.
What more specifically do you want from them?
Complete suspension of arms sales to Israel, embargoes, sanctions, whatever it takes to stop this genocide that is currently occurring, not just empty platitudes, to conference halls full of people who support you.
Can I ask what your job is, or are you a student?
I'm a student.
You're a student.
Are you happy with Keir Starmer as Labour leader?
He seems like a very articulate young man, and whatever Starmer said, I'm not sure if he was old enough to vote back in 2019. But he certainly seems to have sussed Starmer out, that's for sure. And like he said, he joined the Labour Party with a sense of hope. He actually joined after Starmer had become leader of the opposition. And it doesn't take much to see through all the crap, and it certainly doesn't take much to see through the lack of action, lack of sanctions, lack of divestment that should be put upon Israel, as well as an end to arms sales in its entirety, not just the pittance of 8 or 9% that David Lammy's tried to throw on the table while people die in the hundreds and thousands as the situation escalates in Lebanon. So this young man knows where it's at.
Absolutely not, no. Although it's not just him, it's the party more general and the wider political establishment for not being supportive of taking the action that is required in order to stop this genocide and actually stop the war like they claim they want to do.
Can you tell us what was going through your head as you were sat there, and what sort of was the moment you decided to stand up and start talking?
I was just angry. I mean, at myself, I guess, for not saying anything at the time. But again, like I say, just for him coming out to say that he wanted a ceasefire, but not taking any of the actions that he could, not lifting a finger in order to do it.
It's double standards and hypocrisy, yeah. And you just have to have a basic understanding of the English language to know that that's what it is. You don't have to delve too deeply to see that Starmer, Lammy's words are completely separate from their actions, what's happening. And they're taking us for fools. I dare say even worse than that they're trying to gaslight the British public, keeping us complicit in international war crimes.
And I was just angry, and in the end I decided not to do it. I thought speech was over.
How many... Sorry, go on.
What did you, I don't know if you heard what Keir Starmer said back at you.
No.
He said you must have a pass from 2019 and they've changed the Labour Party. What do you make of
No,
that?
I joined in 2022 when he was leader. I thought he would be able to do what he said, to be a more moderate force that could win the election and still deliver change, but he hasn't delivered change.
And he won't either. No. Absolutely right. So he said he's not sure if he's going to be a Labour member or delegate anymore after that, and if that's the way he has to go out, then I guess that's a decent way of walking away from the Labour Party, but he's made the right choice. He's taken the right decision. He's spoken truth to power, and he's asked the right questions instead of just sitting there and absorbing the robotic neoliberal BS that Starmer's pouring out and clapping like a circus seal, like nearly everybody else in that hall was. So well done, well done. Starmer, he's such a creep. And that's a typical example as well, just very quickly. about how Labour's treating its youth members at the moment. What's happening in Gaza is a massive concern for huge amounts of young people. It really is. And that would also include quite a few people who are members of the Labour Party, as we've just seen evidence of. So that's what Starmer thinks about the youth. That's the way he treats the youth, who want to have their voice, who want to use their voice, and who have concern, legitimate concern, about issues which he has control over. Okay, I'll get on to the clips from Starmer's speech. Like I said, it won't be the full thing, just a compilation that I came across. And more of that other protest after this. Okay, let's get cracking.
Never forget that this opportunity is only here because we changed the party. Country first, party second. That isn't a slogan. It's the foundation of this project. A pact with working people.
It is a slogan, Keith. And like I said, it's a good job. I'm not going through the full 55-minute version. Whatever it is, we'd be here all night. We'd be here till the weekend. It is a slogan, and I remember not too long ago you standing on a stage and saying that you weren't the party of slogans while you stood in front of another slogan. Liar.
We must fulfil to retain the privilege of serving their interests on economic stability, national security, wealth creation, protecting our borders, rooting out anti-Semitism, standing with NATO and Ukraine.
Oh, no way. No way is he still trying to play that. Keith. The Labour files were a thing. The Ford report was a thing. A lot more information about this has come out since. Not only that, it's been admitted to and gloated about, as we spoke about recently on the channel, the fact that you made up the whole anti-Semitism crisis bullshit. And before you stabbed Corbyn in the back, weren't you telling Labour members and supporters that you knew that it was bullshit, and now you're supporting that lie, that smear, that campaign to oust the former leader based on absolute outright lies. Despicable. Despicable. It fathoms even me just how dumb he thinks we are. It gets worse and worse and worse.
The changes we made are permanent, irreversible. Service is the responsibility and opportunity of power, the precondition for hope, the bond of respect that can unite a country, bind us to the politics of national renewal. Service doesn't mean we'll get everything right. It doesn't mean everyone will agree. But it does mean we understand that every decision we take together, and that it is our duty to the British people to face up to necessary decisions in their...
Odin Allfather and Brett James, welcome to the chat. Great to see you as well.
...their interests. The patient, calm, determined era of politics as service has begun. Planning, reform, doctors back in theatre.
How many times has he said service now? Is service the new deliver? And as predicted, even though only a short way into this, it's a continuous outpouring of boardroom talk and phrases that are supposed to sound good but are completely vacuous, completely hollow. There's no substance to them. And anything that they do say, anything with substance on, is Tory crap and not what people would expect from a traditional Labour Party, which is democratic socialist. Or at least it was until Blair came along and tore up Clause 4. And now Starmer's dragged us back to those days.
New solar projects, new offshore wind projects, the onshore ban, Lefty.
I say us, it's them. I'm not a Labour member, I should just point that out. Lord no.
Great British Energy launched. One-word Ofsted judgments ended. A border security command. A national wealth fund. Getting Britain building again. The Renters Reform Bill, stopping no-fault evictions. And the Railway Services Bill, moving railways back into public ownership. And we're only just getting started. A crackdown on knife crime. A real...
Now, this won't be any kind of full nationalisation of infrastructure. Not by any means. He's been pulled up on this before as well, Keith. All that's going to happen, you know, take out of one hand, throw a little bit back into the other. Less and less and less each time is what the British public are going to get back. We need to overhaul the very system itself, because it's leading us on a very dark path economically, in terms of climate change, so many issues, social issues, socio-political issues. And the whole thing needs changing root and stem. He's going to tinker around the edges, around the periphery, with a couple of issues and think that this is not only going to change the country for the better, but appease British voters, and it's just not going to be anywhere near enough. And it's British people, working people, low incomes, who are going to suffer, pensioners as well, and not the elites. He's just going to continue cozying up to them.
Living wage, a modern industrial strategy, a 10-year plan for our NHS, devolution to our nation's regions and cities, the biggest levelling up of workers' rights in a generation, more teachers, more neighbourhood police, more operations, rebuilding our public services. I call again for restraint and de-escalation at the border between Lebanon and Israel. Again, all parties to pull back from the brink. I call again for the media.
I assume he's not going to go through a list of how he's going to fund those few things he spewed out there. He's happy to let pensioners freeze this winter. Won't pay £1.4 billion for that, but he's somehow found some money for all these other new policies. No, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Not for 1 second. He's lying. He's lying.
Ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages. The hostages.
The what? Return the what?
Gaza. The return of the sausages.
Return of the sausages. Hostages, Keith. Obviously, don't mention the 41+ thousand dead Palestinians that we know of. Obviously, the real number's going to be way higher than that.
a recognised Palestinian state alongside a safe and secure Israel. And that's the message I will take to the UN General Assembly when I travel there later today. We said GB Energy, our publicly owned national champion, the vehicle that will drive forward our mission on clean energy, we said it belonged in Scotland. And it does.
We know how crap Starmer is on issues with Gaza. I'll get onto that in a bit more detail later. Just go through this bit more. I will mention Palestine and Lebanon a bit later in the stream.
But the truth is, it could only really ever be based in one place in Scotland. So today I can confirm that the future of British energy will be powered, as it has been for decades, by the talent and skills of the working people in the Granite City, with GB Energy based in Aberdeen. I understand that many of the decisions we must take will be unpopular. If they were popular, they'd be easy.
This, again, back to this. Everything's going to be great, and then, there are going to be tough choices, difficult decisions to make. Things won't happen overnight. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to give us a decade for things to get okay. And it says change begins there. Whether you call it lying or gaslighting or bullshit, it's just not. He changes his tune more often than he changes his suits, which have been donated to him by a multi-millionaire. You with me?
But the cost of filling that black hole in our public finances.
RC Pilot, welcome to the chat as well. Great to see you back tonight. Just while I paused it as well, another shout out to the agitator for the Star Wars sausage clip. Don't know if I get pulled up on the algorithm for copyright on that one, but we'll see. We'll see. If you're watching back on a replay and you can't hear the theme tune to Star Wars by John Williams, then that's why.
Will be shared fairly. We will get the welfare build out because we will tackle long-term sickness and support people back to work. We will make every penny work for you because we will root out waste and go over tax avoidance. There will be no stone left unturned, no innovation ignored, no return to Tory austerity. We will rebuild our public service, protect working people, and do this in a Labour way, and that is a promise.
Poppycock Keith, as Reeves and Cooper look on. Well, how do you describe those faces? Reeves just has like the two. She has the robotic, non-human one, and the one that laughs at Starmer's jokes in Parliament. Oh, there might be a third option, the smug. I just gloated while a protester was being guided out of the room by his throat face. Yvette Cooper, well, she actually seems a bit nonplussed, judging by that expression. Who knows? Who knows? Absolute toss, Keith. What were the last couple of things he said there? Just 1 second.
And do this in a Labour way, and that is a promise. No return to Tory austerity. We will rebuild our public service, protect working people, and do this in a Labour way, and that is a promise.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Pretty much, if you did things the proper way, the right way, the so-called easy choices that you're deliberately not taking, and putting proper taxation on the wealthiest in society, instead of straight away going for people with more than 2 children and pensioners, then that would be the right way to go about it. But that is the road that you're refusing to walk down, to guide the country down. You can't have it both ways, Keith. Yet again. Make your goddamn mind up.
And if you can't take that on faith, perhaps because you're concerned about the winter fuel allowance, then I get that.
No, you don't get it. You can't get it. You can't get it. People have tried to appeal to you, especially the unions are under a lot of pressure from the likes of Unite and so on, to do a U-turn on this policy, as well as your own members protesting outside the conference yesterday, like we saw in yesterday's stream. So you don't get it. You don't get it. What you get is hospitality at Arsenal matches, box seats, and free concert tickets, and suits, and glasses, and shoes, and God knows what else, holidays. That's what you get. What you don't get is how pensioners rely so much on those winter fuel payments. The threshold for the means tested system that Starmer wants to use is so low. We're talking about people who only make £11,000 or £12,000 a year. That's how much they have to live off. So those few £100 during the winter are essential. But you don't get that, Keith, as a multimillionaire. That is what you don't get. You can say son of a toolmaker and an NHS worker as many times as you like until you're Tory blue in the face. But it just doesn't wash. Because you're part of a different part of society. You're establishment all the way. You don't know the struggles that ordinary people have, or pensioners.
As I say, if this path were popular or easy, we'd have walked it already. But the risk of showing to the world...
When the man who tried to walk that path was on the road to victory in 2017, you blew the wheels off the Labour Party and his campaign. And you absolutely and utterly tried to destroy him as a man. And now you're on a stage gloating about the fact that you've done that. You stopped transformative policy from happening in 2019. I've already explained why. I'm sure that your viewers already know why as well. And it would have already been taking place for years. We wouldn't have had to have another term of Tory austerity, making it 14 years in total, before you swoop in and try and throw a few crumbs on the table that you're not going to say where you're going to find the money for said policies. Just, he's ignorant of the truth, he's ignorant of the past. He wants to take us all for fools.
As the Tories do, that this country does not fund its policies properly. That is a risk we can never take again. Stabilising our economy is the first step of this long-term plan. And if we're serious about levelling up, then we must be proud to be the party of wealth.
Levelling up. Levelling up. Did he actually... Wow. Okay. A brief history of levelling up by Lefty on My Left Eye. Levelling up is a phrase used by the Tories in an attempt to replace the word equality. And it's absolute bollocks. They created a new ministerial position for it, the Minister for Levelling Up. Tried to force it into the syntax of political language. What it's supposed to mean is equality and reducing the wealth gap. You are literally using phrases that the Tories made up on the stage, Keith.
Creation, unashamed to partner with the private sector, and perhaps most importantly...
And just very quickly, where the economy is concerned, anyone with a basic understanding of government budgets, economics and so on and so forth, knows that it's investment that gets air quotes economy going. Okay? It's not more cuts and more austerity. We're at the stage where he's going to try to say that there are cuts, but that cuts aren't austerity as well. You remember Lisa Nandy, the clip I showed recently, trying to argue over the definition of the word austerity. That's where we're at now. Cuts aren't austerity, cuts are investment. Up is down. And Labour are Tory.
That just because we all want low tax and good public services, that does not mean that the iron law of properly funding policies can be ignored. Because it can't. We've seen the damage that that does. And I will not let that happen again. I will not let Tory economic recklessness hold back the working people of this country.
You are doing exactly exactly the same thing. The same thing.
Do something else I won't let happen. I will never let a minority of violent, racist thugs terrorise our community.
Whoo! You're about to hear a man's head explode live on air, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. I can't effing believe it. I can't effing believe it. He's still acting as though he swooped in with a cape. The Starmer man is here to save us all, and that's why there was an uprising against the racist riots. No, it was people who stood up against them, and communities. And the most fundamental point that blows my mind is it was counter-protests. It was counter-protests that actually stopped those right-wing thugs in towns and cities across the world. And saved a lot of communities. And regular viewers on the channel know that I was on the front lines of one example of that. And that he can criticise protest and try to take all of the credit for stopping those right-wing thugs really makes my piss boil, I've got to say. It really does. That's so far beyond the pale. It's just insulting. It's not only an insult to all of those people who went out there and actually took to the streets to try and stop literal fascists from destroying communities, businesses, mosques. He thinks that because he made a little squiggle on a piece of paper that he deserves all of the plaudits, all of the credit for what happened. No, it was people who did it, and more importantly, it was protest. It was protest, Keith. The very thing that you say you can't stand. And that Rachel Reeves says should be no part of the Labour Party whatsoever. A party funded by trade unions and protest. Shame on you. Shame on you. Keir Rodney Starmer. Shame on you.
Every child, every person deserves to be respected for the contribution they make. My sister was a carer. I think this...
Well, speak of the devil. So this is, we've just been through this already, but the bit with the protester. Just want to go back actually and see what he was about to say about his sister, because obviously he does the son of a toolmaker, son of a nurse thing.
My sister was a carer. I think
she was a carer or whatever.
This guy's obviously got a pass from the 2019 conference.
Hold on, that guy.
Those are my values. That is what I believe. And those are the values of Britain that we will be with.
It's just bloody face there. Christ. Look at, did you see Streeting then? Did you see him? Gonna be taking a closer look at after Starmer's speech very briefly, but did you see that face? Well, there's a trio to go through. Let's just see what's happening. That was just like the disdain that, oh my God. Pat McFadden's, even his face sends you to sleep on the right there. My God, when was the last time that Ed Miliband went to sleep? It's bedtime, Ed. What's going on with those panda eyes? My God. But right there in the middle. Ugh, he's such a... I'm going to stick an early one in. Where is it?
But shut up, Wesley.
Yeah, moving on. Rachel Reeves is doing that weird kind of despotic dictatorship audience clapping.
What will people get to show for it? They will get a country with its future back, renewed by respect and service.
We are still devoid of any explanation as to what that phrase means, Keith. And again, the no slogans thing. Another slogan. Do you remember the Britain will get its future back? I think if anyone has any scintilla of information as to what that phrase, please don't hesitate to let me know, because I'm completely dumbfounded for any kind of meaning.
Rebalance towards the interests of working people, confident in its values and story, because together we took action. Millions who feel better off, without just being told they're better off by politicians. Going to the supermarket without a calculator, because the nation's numbers now add up.
What? Most modern mobile phones have calculators on them, Keith. Yeah. Or basic principle of mathematics. No?
More money in their pocket to do the things they love. More faith in their public services, because once again, Labour rebuilt them.
What if they're a pensioner, Keith? What if they're a pensioner? What if they're like, oh, you know, there used to be this thing. It's called the winter fuel allowance. And that really helped me get through those cold months. And now I have to rack up the prices to the penny when I go to the supermarket. Whether they do mental calculations or they take a calculator or use the calculator on the phone, whatever. But what about those people? Are you helping them out?
An NHS facing the future. More security and dignity at work. Town centres private. Streets safe.
And I'm disappointed to see Andy Burnham there clapping along as well. Let's go back a sec.
Town centres private. Streets safe. Borders controlled at lock. Clean energy services, because once again, Labour rebuilt them. An NHS facing the future. More security.
Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, joining in with all of that hoo-ha there.
And dignity at work. Town centres private. Streets safe. Borders controlled at lock. Clean energy, harness for national renewal.
Do you like phrases? We've got tons more. We've got bags of phrases. In fact, it's 3 for 1 on phrases today at Keir Starmer's Super Shit Show. Come to Liverpool and join in the fun.
New homes, new towns, new hospitals, roads and schools. A new future for our children. That people will get, and mark my word, we will deliver it.
We can't afford a single thing, but here's a bunch of things that we are going to give to you. Absolutely. We've got lies to sell you. We've got bridges to sell you. And I think at the moment, I paused it there. He was just about to say the D word. Postman twat arriving duly on time.
And mark my word, we will deliver it.
Oh, it was bound to happen at least once, wasn't it? I didn't get up the old counter. I'd have to copy and paste it across from the other section. Anyway, I won't go into technical details. But we got at least one deliver so far. There's still 40 odd seconds of this left. This little compilation. But aren't they really going wild for all of these unfunded dream policies? Even if he did come through on most of them, wouldn't make a massive difference economically or for people's living standards. I've not heard the phrase minimum wage come up, for example. Not once.
People said we couldn't change the party, but we did. People said...
No, I don't think that's right. People just said that you changed it back into a neoliberal Tory imitation. That's all that they said. I don't recall even the Tories denying that Keith could change the Labour Party.
We wouldn't win across Britain, but we did. People say we can't deliver national renewal, but we can, and we will.
Power's just for power's sake. To Keith, it's not for transformative change. If you've won, then everybody wins. If only.
We will stabilise our economy, clear out the Tory rot, fix the foundations and deliver the mandate of change. A Britain built to last, built with respect, built with pride, because together we have shown that Britain belongs.
Who writes this crap? Who writes this crap? Really, honestly. I can recall many a time under the previous leader of the opposition where speeches were actually inspiring and I was genuinely, drawn to clap. Even if I was by myself, it was that hopeful. And now look at this trash.
To you. Second conference.
Oh, piss off, Keith. Right, that's enough from the compilation. Because that's all that's left by default. That's all from that for the moment. Just bear with me, folks. I'm going to take just a few seconds getting something lined up here. I'll be right back with you. Thanks for sticking it out with me on the Brews at 10, by the way. Please do hit the thumbs up button and share across your social media. We're going to move on to a couple more things in just a moment. Stand by. Thanks for your patience, folks. Good to go again. It's also good to see Alwyn and Mobius in the chat. Hope you're doing very well tonight. Solidari-Tea, thanks for joining me on the Brews at 10. I said we'll take a quick look at what Wesley has been up to today, so we'll get onto that very quickly before I do an update on the Middle East. First of all, there's a Sky News interview with Streeting, and then there's Victoria Derbyshire pulling him up at the conference hall itself. We'll start with the Sky one.
I think it's about transparency and accountability. So on political
So this is, yeah, the donations yesterday. We said that Wes thinks it's actually the morally right thing to do. And he's just going to reiterate those points there. He compared it to giving money to a charity. He thought it was a noble endeavour, I think were his actual words. So he's going to try and defend that now in this interview. Very badly, by the way. I'll just saw through this. It speaks for itself. Just how awful. Oh, God. This guy's in charge of the National Health Service, for God's sake. Isn't that literally terrifying? Do you ever just stop to think of the institutions that these people are actually in charge of now, and how many people rely on those elements, departments, so on and so forth? Really worrying.
Nations, of course, especially when you're in government, you have to make sure that you're behaving in an ethical way. But what I don't think we say enough in this country is that people who give to political parties to fund our politics are showing the same philanthropic spirit as people who give to charity. I think it is actually a noble pursuit. I think it is a good thing to do. The alternative is taxpayer funding of political parties. And I think taxpayers want their taxes spent on public services, not spent on politics.
Now, back in 2019, Labour's main source of funding was small donations from low-income people who did, want to get a government elected that would have made a difference in their lives, but not this time around, Wesley. We're talking about £4 million from people who are involved in oil and stash money in offshore bank accounts. £4 million. £4 million. Biggest donation ever. These aren't people who need the change, who struggle day by day, who are a couple of paychecks away from being homeless or can't afford to heat and light the homes. It's completely different. Completely different, Wes.
People would completely disagree with that, though, right? They might say, look, if you're giving to a homeless charity or something, then that is for all the right reasons. And a lot of people, they would say, actually give to political parties for influence.
Except that, in my experience, both in terms of people who've donated to me to fund my campaigns, or staff in my office in opposition, or the Labour Party donors that I've met over the years, ever wanted is to see Labour value through winning government. They've never asked for anything in return. These are people who support the Labour Party because they share our values. And what the Conservatives tried to do at the last election was increase the spending limit because they thought they would raise the money and we wouldn't. And instead we put a huge effort into building support from a really great team of people who donated their money in the case of financial donors, but their time as Labour members to do something which is noble in our country, which is
what about
politics
a pensioner on,
and democracy. And I know it hasn't felt like
a year,
politics
Wes?
has been a noble profession in this
What
country
are they get out of
for
it?
some time. I was elected
Should they
in
donate to
2015.
Labour?
I feel
Will
like
they get
I've lived
something
through
back?
some of the worst chapters in British political history, but I still believe with the same optimism that I felt 20 years ago when I first came to to Labour Party conference, that politics is a force for good. And politics is a force for change. And I think we will show that through our actions during this Parliament.
But shut up, Wesley.
He's such a weasel. He's such a weasel. You're right, Olwyn. But Victoria Derbyshire, to her credit, actually pulled him up a bit on this, especially over the winter fuel allowance that the party are making. So this is a bit better. Not that one. Okay.
What's your advice to pensioners who are frightened about the forthcoming winter?
Well, two things. Firstly, the winter fuel allowance is being means tested to support the poorest pensioners. We've also extended things like the warm homes discount
So what's your advice?
and the hardship support. But the other advice I would give is, like, in terms of the triple lock, we're committed to that. That means that pensioners will be better.
Advice.
But pensioners will be better off next winter and the winter after than they were last winter because we've committed to the triple lock.
Only if they're on the new state pension, and most people.
The advice, I guess, is try not to freeze to death this winter. But unfortunately, we know that's going to happen. There are going to be excess winter deaths this year because of that very policy, and he knows it. So yeah, try and stay alive for another year, and then who knows, maybe this time next year things might get a bit better and they'll stick in a year's time.
Aren't on a new state pension. Some pensioners have told us they are frightened. Like, you can't be proud of that.
But I also think that in terms of the choices we're making and the fairness that's built in, both in terms of the means test, the other support that's available, and also the value of the pension itself, pensioners will still be better off, and the whole country is going to have to.
You can see by this point that Derbyshire's been there probably since the conference started, and she'll have heard a lot of this. Again, just vomiting out the same old crap and the boardroom talk and all of this Tory spiel that comes with it. She's used to it. She's heard it 1,000 times before. She completely switched off. Deflection and repetition is all you'll get from the likes of this shower.
Kind of put their shoulders to the wheel to get us out of the mess that the Conservatives have left.
But
we're showing political.
Come on, for 1.4 billion in savings in a £1 trillion budget, pensioners, really?
It's 1.4 billion pounds worth of.
Yeah, and it's over £1 trillion actually. I've been through the list of how many other policies could plug this so-called £22 billion black hole. That's what Starmer refers to as easy choices, and also says that he's not going to take them. So there you have it.
Savings against the black hole of 22 billion.
And
there
against
are
a budget of over £1 trillion.
Yeah, over £1 trillion. Absolute tosh, Wesley. We'll have less of that.
But shut up, Wesley.
Quickly back. I'm not sure if I showed this yesterday. Just back to the thing about the freebies and the corruption. It's a recent poll by Stats for Lefties from different parties who were polled about whether they think it's acceptable for MPs to accept freebies. And at the moment, as it stands, it's Labour members who think that's the most acceptable. Not the Tories. Not even Reform, who think it's acceptable, because you look at all the shady money that's involved with the Reform Party as well. So overall, it was 64 to 25, with there's an unsure option as well. Just wanted to point that out for clarity. So 53 to 38 for Labour, 80 to 16, excuse me, for the Tories, 85 to 13 for referendum, 67 to 29 for Lib Dem. Wow. That we'd live to see such days. Yeah, I can't remember if I brought that up yesterday, but I have now. Just to be sure. That's all from the conference for today. Very quickly over to things in the Middle East. The latest on that situation. yesterday it was reported almost 500 people were killed, including 35 children. 1,600 people have been injured in Lebanon. As Israeli strikes continue, it now appears that a senior Hezbollah leader has been killed in recent strikes. And now that total, actually, this is just from the latest feed, 550 people, including 50 children. That number's gone up, and it's been described as utter carnage, which it is, and we're obviously continually worried about this escalation. That quote there from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that the world cannot afford Lebanon to become another Gaza. They continue to lash out at the neighbours, that is Israel, I'm speaking of. In synchronisation with these attacks, they are of course continuing to bombard the West Bank and Gaza. And it doesn't look like it's going to let up anytime soon. Yoav Gallant said his country will continue hitting Hezbollah attacks. See, they used the word Hezbollah interchange with the word Lebanon. There is no difference between how they see Hezbollah and how they see the citizens. Like I said, despite what Netanyahu has said on TV in the last 24 hours, he's used the word war again. Importantly, he said that the war is not with the Lebanese, it is with Hezbollah. But Yoav Gallant himself has contradicted that as well, in saying that they don't distinguish between civilians and militant wings of political movements as Hezbollah are. So he just went on to say, the safe return of Israel's northern residents to the home is achieved. That's what they're trying to get. Obviously, they didn't expect that if they kicked off with another country who they border with, that there might be some retaliation and that residents on the border could be in peril. But that's probably as fanatical as it is naive, so that's just the latest on the numbers and stuff there. I won't go through too much of this article. Time's getting on. I do have to get off in a moment or two. And before I go, I want to give another shout out to all the members on the channel. Just remind you that you can join that list of people for 99 pence. Check out the perks. Before I do say goodbye this evening, please make sure that you've hit the thumbs up button on the stream to help it reach a broader audience. I also want to say thank you very much for joining me tonight as we celebrate 1 year of YouTube on the channel this week. And if you're watching back on a replay, please add a comment as well. Try and respond to as many comments on vids and live streams as possible. You can also show Solidari-Tea by using super thanks, which are open on this vid. And Floor Snake, great to see you back as well. Again, sorry it's hello, I must be going. But obviously, great to see you as always. I'm just going to check on potential redirects for another channel. I do know that Kevin and Helena were on earlier. I saw the thumbnails on YouTube. Let's see if they're still on, respectively. yeah, it looks like Helena's still on at No Justice, so stick around, don't go anywhere. I might join you in the chat on there briefly. Okay, that's all set up. Right, yeah, great content from Helena as always, so stick around for that. Okay, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, must dash, but it's been wonderful to have you with me tonight on the Brews at 10 on my left eye. Say hello to Helena for me before I jump in the chat, and I'll be right with you very shortly. But if I don't see you there, take care of yourselves, and my left eye will be seeing you soon. Take care, people.
But shut up, Wesley.